Can't believe that something like this would happen.
Tonight, questions around what happened at Gettysburg College. Officials now investigating what may have been a racially motivated incident. Good evening. I'm Valerie Pritchett.
I'm Alicia Richards. So glad you're with us. Gettysburg College tells us the student who allegedly scratched a racial slur into another student is no longer enrolled at the college. Ireland Viscount is here with our update tonight. Ireland.
Valerie, Alicia, what happened at Gettysburg College has sent shockwaves to the community, especially the students who came up to us wanting to share how they are feeling following this incident.
I'm beyond angry. I am mortified. I am furious, horrified, confused, and most of all, disappointed at what's happened.
It was just shocks. We haven't really had any sort of events like that happen. And it's just like a shocking thing that just came out of complete nowhere.
The family of the victim sent a statement to the Gettysburgian, the Gettysburg student newspaper, saying on the evening of Friday, September 6th, our son became the victim of a hate crime.
From what I know, the N-word was carved, etched with a box cutter into the bare skin of a colored member of the swim team, one of the only colored members, by someone who they thought was a friend, someone who they could trust.
The family statement confirms this and says it was etched across his chest. Last week, the college said plastic or ceramic tool was used to scratch the slur into the student's body.
I can't fathom as to why someone would go to that length, as to why a monster like this, and there's no more appropriate term to use, would do this to someone else. A person, a human being.
Rosario says he's from Kensington, Philadelphia.
AKA what a lot of people call Zombie Town because of the drug epidemic going on at the moment. But now I can say I probably felt more safe there than here with what just happened.
The college sharing a statement from them and the family. It says in part, a heinous act can serve as a transformative moment for Gettysburg College to live up to its ideals of diversity, inclusion, and justice. We pray that together we can arouse a collective conscience, promoting healing and help bring about justice for our son and the rest of the Gettysburg College community. A criminal complaint has not been filed with the Gettysburg police. The department says the victim has decided to let the college handle the matter. In the family statement to the Gettysburgian, they say they filed a complaint with the NAACP Harrisburg chapter and the NAACP Pennsylvania Conference, adding they also sent a similar complaint to the Pennsylvania Commission on Human Relations. Alicia.
Just terrible.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we are here breaking down this incident, this latest racial incident that happened at Gettysburg College. As you can see from the news clip, a young black man on the swim team had the N-word scratched or etched or carved, various words that were used throughout the broadcast, scratched, etched, or carved in his chest by a fellow swimmer who was a white guy who was supposed to be the friend of the black guy. And this is crazy, but it's not far-fetched if you look at the history of America. So one thing that we are going to do with this is make sure that we emphasize what true systematic racism is, because incidents like this are often used by both sides. They're often used by black people to say, see, racism still exists, and used by white people to say, see, this is an isolated incident. So you can't use this to prove that the system of racism still exists. So we're going to make sure that we get in on that. But we do want to dive into this subject because it's a lot in this from both sides, from the white guy who carved the N-word on the young man's chest, to the reaction from the college, to the reaction from the family, to the reaction from the young black man that they were interviewing. It's a lot to talk about. And this is in PC's backyard. What y'all got going on? See, y'all, hey, you can't talk about Florida tonight. You can't talk about Florida tonight. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and kick it to PC, man. What are your thoughts on this? Like when you heard about this young black dude getting the N-word carved into his chest by his white swim teammate, supposed to be best friend. What were your thoughts?
I said, damn, I just spilled my tea into my lap. Hold on. So one of the things that I saw, first of all, I told y'all that outside of Philadelphia, the rest of the state is Kentucky.
You've been saying that for a minute.
I've been telling y'all that you don't even have to go an hour west, which is Gettysburg is an hour west of Philadelphia, and there you go. So it's funny too. When I was a senior in high school, I visited Gettysburg University. It was one of the schools that was on our list, yes, to go to college and all that. But my bad.
No, you good. I wouldn't even think about it. Wait, thank you.
So the incident was wild, but I'm gonna get into that. But for the student that they chose, Mr.
Man,
bruh, like, did you get any more dramatic? Like, what was his major, man? You know what I'm saying? Got to be, because he put on a performance of a lifetime. I know he hoped somebody was watching. And then, what year did this happen? 2024? Was this 1824? Because my man was in there talking about a student of color, a colored boy.
Yeah,
like you come from Kensington, homie. You know what color looks like. You know black from difference. So I thought that was interesting. You know what I'm saying? First, this is the thing, right? There's no way in hell you could tell me that somebody is allowing a utility knife to be carved into, like somebody use a utility knife to carve into your flesh, and you're just gonna sit there and let them like get a whole word in.
I have so many questions.
You know what I mean? Like the G alone, 2 G's. So this speaks to a conspiracy. It was more than one student there. Now I've read the story. I've read the article in the NPR piece. And what they're saying is some of the students at the school are siding with him, but then there's some other students who want anything to do with the victim. That leads me to believe that some of these other students may have been involved in this hazing, holding down this racial hatred crime. You know what I'm saying? This hate crime that took place. Because I don't want to diminish that part because it is a hate crime.
But it's a lot of layers to it. For like you're saying, like, did he just lay there and let it happen?
That's the question, right? I doubt it, but I mean, well, I guess it might. And they didn't even say when it was revealed. They said another student, and according to the story, another student who happened to be on the swim team actually was the one that reported this. So he wasn't even going to say shit. So, and could be based on intimidation, things of that nature. It happens. But there's a lot of things to be a lot of layers to be peeled from. Like you said, a lot of layers to be peeled from it. The biggest thing I have a problem with is this whole concept of a university. We're going to try to heal as a community. BS.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
And we're going to try to, because the only justice would be if somebody did it to whoever was involved in doing it to him. You know what I'm saying? If a swastika or something could be tattooed into their foreheads. I'm at my limit. I know. But that's the only thing I could really see. It's on they according to the article, they reported it to the NAACP. When has anything been gotten done since Brown versus the Board of Education? The NAACP needs to take a seat. All right. That's all really right now. For now, I'm not going to go too long.
But yeah, a lot of points that you brought up are a lot of things that I wrote down as things that we could hit up on while we're talking about this because of the layers. as I watched that video, watched the news clip, and then I read a CNN article about the incident, and it seems as if, okay, people are upset that this incident happened, but there's a bit of cover up because there's no no police report filed. We're going to let the NAACP handle it. We're going to let the college handle it, because it's almost as if, like, yeah, he did this. We don't like he did this, but we don't really want to get him all the way in trouble. We just want to slap on the wrist, let him know that that's not okay, but we don't really want to really get him in trouble. And so that just
It sounds like there's a lot of muzzling going on that they don't college.
And so is that so you where's Gettysburg College again?
Gettysburg College, the hour west of Philadelphia.
So, like, what type of town?
Like
the town that it's in, like, what type of town is it? It's like a racist town. It's like a segregated town.
The majority of Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia is white, and it's semi-suburban rural, depending on where you are.
So it makes me think either they don't want to get the person all the way in trouble, or they may fear consequences of fully pursuing criminal charges.
Let me tell you, man, I went to Bloomsburg, right, which is north central Pennsylvania, Poconos Mountains, same type of township, though. All right. And one of the things that that I know is that, especially if this student is local, if he's from the town, then they're friends and family with law enforcement and things of that nature. So there's going to be a slap on the wrist for this student because they don't see it as a big deal. And that's how they function and operate in towns like that, especially in Pennsylvania. Like, man, listen, I keep trying to tell y'all, man, Pennsylvania, etch it in. Don't put it in nobody's back, but etch it in, Pennsylvania.
I mean, you know, we from Florida, so we from North Florida. So like we can wake up and look outside our window and see racism. So like, like we get it. It's
I've been through Florida. I've been through North Florida. I've even driven through your town years before I met you. And I'll tell you, when I drove through Florida, you know what I thought? I said, damn, it's like a hot version of Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? And that's all it is. Y'all just got swamps. We got forests. And that's the biggest difference. Y'all may got gators. We got bears. You know what I'm saying? But the personalities and the people and the way law enforcement, I mean, I drove all the way across y'all state, all the way down to Fort Walton Beach.
But so, Pat, I'm assuming this is your first time seeing this clip.
Yeah.
So fresh off the top, man, you see this clip, you see the whole presentation in the clip, you see the information that they're talking about. What are your thoughts about the incident and just everything that you could think of surrounding it? Just off the top.
So fresh off the top, not knowing nothing from nothing, because I just rejoined the electrical age yesterday.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. First thing popped in my mind was Juicy Smouye, being honest.
Yeah.
And then after that, it became just because of how quiet it is about details. You know what I'm saying? Even in the clip you played, it was just like, and so as you were playing it, I went and Google searched and read, you know, an article or two real quick and saw no mention of a police report. And then both of you gentlemen said there was no police report. And so then I was like, all right, maybe not Juicy Smouye. Maybe the black person is just intimidated or afraid, like PC said, and they don't want it to get out. Or maybe their family don't want it to get out, but at the same time, somebody in the family wants something done, so maybe they leak something out.
Well, you bring up a good point, because in the CNN article, it's saying that due to student privacy laws, none of the students involved have been identified. Hey, man, stop. I live in a college town. Stop that. Stop that. I live in a college town. You mean to tell me a student can get identified that's involved in gun violence, but the student can't get identified in something like this? Stop it. It's
and
more going on.
This is weird because they're legal adults. These are not minors.
Right.
if they had you got caught up in the police blotter, if they caught you urinating outside, and when I was in school, it'd be
Yes.
news in the blotter, like literally in the newspaper. So,
So,
yeah,
so you know what? It's weird. It don't make sense. So I'm trying to figure out why, because we do know black folk, like something like this would drive us out, and there'd be names flying everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be people talking, details would be leaking out all over the
It's
place.
quiet.
Which leads me further back into, okay, well, PC, you know, when he talks about it being intimidation and people being muzzled and stuff, that might very well be the case. And in doing that, not only do they keep things quiet, but they also lend credence to the Juicy Smouye angle. So it gets to be real interesting. As far as the brother goes that was talking, his family failed him totally. Like your whole community failed you, my guy. I'm not even blaming you for that, because I believe, I mean, I know it's liberal arts, maybe you're a theater major, and maybe you were trying something out. But if that's genuinely how you felt, you are ill prepared for life in America.
right.
Like you're just not equipped to be a black person in America. And the mere fact that you use colored
The way he did.
the way you did was, it made me think, oh, you know, I was thinking, what's the Jordan Peele movie?
Oh shoot, the superpower black people, or something like that.
No, not that one. The old one that first blew him up.
Us.
Oh
No,
Not Us.
no, he's talking about the one where he take
yeah,
picture.
with the T
Yeah,
cup.
the T.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he just recently went through the procedure and he got an old ass
Oh,
white
get out,
person
get
in
out,
him right
get
now.
out.
Get out.
Yeah.
Cause like there was nothing in alignment with what he was saying and like what he looked like. Like it was something was wrong there. It was a disconnect. So but if that's truly how the young brother feels, then his family has failed him and he is ill-equipped for life as a black man in America. The story is crazy. I'm also on the same thing PC said. I was thinking the same thing. Like, how many people would it take to hold me down while you carve 2 G's into my chest? Like the ends you can get, they quick. The eye is quick. Like you gotta like curve the G.
Yeah.
You won't get past the end with me.
So I'm just like, how did you?
Like, yeah, there's a lot of missing details, bro. A lot of missing details.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's just I'm just honest reaction is I'm confused, and I don't know. Like I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I'll say Juicy Smouye was first, and then intimidation was second, and then like all of these other things started popping up third, and then finally I'm most clear on the young brother that was speaking because I'm pretty certain I've made up my mind about him.
Yeah. Well, he's fully embraced fear. Fear has taken over his whole being and rotted his soul, and he's spewing it out as he speaks.
Rotted his soul, Joe?
Fear.
Rotted his soul.
This man said he's from a town that they call Zombie Town because of the amount of drugs there. And because of this incident, he doesn't feel safe at the college. He feels safer in the town that's drug infested than he does at this college.
Yeah,
And it's like,
I'm gonna call BS on that.
but that's even if he lying, even if he's exaggerating, if the intimidation factor was a part of the plan, they've succeeded. They've succeeded in placing fear in the hearts of the black people that's in that area, especially Buddy. And he sounds like I'm not saying he's speaking for the whole of black people, but I guarantee he's speaking for a good majority of black people, especially on that college in that area after that incident.
Yeah. I mean, well, we know fear is the number one tactic that is used to manipulate and control black people. That's not a far-going concept or a foreign concept. The way he took it was a little extreme. But in regards to the overall notion, I understand that. I'm not sure if this type of incident would merit that type of reaction or response from that. Now if you had like a bunch of tiki torches being marched up and down the campus and through the streets of Gettysburg, I could see that being something to create an embodiment of fear. This particular situation, man, listen, like Pat said, bro, I'm just not built like that. But I know some black people are. It's just not. It's like you got to be able to walk in a person's shoes. I can't walk in fear. I don't live in fear, so I don't operate. It's hard for me to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, it ain't even just the fear. Like, that's a big component of it. It's the ignorance. Like the delusion, the total disconnect from reality that I think precipitates the fear. Like, the delusion was there first. And that's where I'm like, that's where your people failed you. Because there's no way that kind of fear could take root in a prepared mind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. But also just looking at the different layers of this story. First of all, the title of the news video is racial slurs scratched into student's chest, something along those lines. But they used the word scratched. And when the newscaster started the broadcast, they used the word scratched, and then they moved on to the word etched. And the young black dude who they interviewed used the word carved. Mm-hmm. And so even from the angle of the news outlets that are posting this story, they're not revealing the true details or the true nature of the story in its rawness that it actually happened, because you're using the words etched, and then it went from a box cutter to a syringe to some kind of plastic type object. Because at first they said they used a box cutter to scratch a racial slur into his chest. Use a box cutter to just scratch a box cutter. Have you ever used a box cutter? You don't just scratch somebody with a box cutter. If you put that blade to them, they're cut.
Well, allegedly 13 terrorists used box cutters to take down 4 airplanes on 9/11. So I'm just saying,
you do a lot of damage with a box cutter.
But I'm just, if anybody who's ever used one, we've all used box cutters. We know how careful you have to be with that blade, that razor blade on that box cutter. You don't just scratch somebody with a box cutter. And then it changed from the box cutter to the syringe. So there's the angle there of the news outlets
getting ahead of the story.
Yeah, and muffling some of the things or downplaying some of the actions that happened within this encounter with this black dude. But it's still going back to, okay, did he just lay there and let them carve it into him? Or was he held down, or was he even conscious when it happened? Now, according to the CNN article, like we were saying, a lot of details just aren't being put out. On top of they're literally trying to tell us that these adults cannot be identified.
Yeah, but this also goes into the corroboration of the media to be complicit in operating from a place that's not there's not from a place of good intention, or not from a place of benevolence. And this goes to, when you think about how the media used to be the fourth estate. The media used to be the engine that kept everything in compliance. And the media used to be what made politicians sit straight. It was literally the fact checker of industry. And it also was the voice of the voiceless. And now you have situations now where the media has done nothing more than cover up. It's been in what is it? Conspiracy to make sure to put a megaphone or a microphone on some stories and to douse out the flame of others. And when it comes to this concept of us trusting the media, I mean, what we in the same article, you got 3 different outcomes or 3, you know, 3 different weapons in the same article. They don't even really care anymore about publishing what's real. And also, depending on who the victim is and depending on who the assailant is, they'll cover the story in certain ways to make sure that certain groups are protected. Black males have never been a protected group in America.
So you're talking about having power and control to be able, they having the power to control narratives like a system,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a white system.
Well, yeah. I mean, not only just the white system, but you know, this is the engine. This is when the Kennedy assassination took place. There were a lot of people who came forward with their versions of what happened. A lot of people, a lot of journalists decided to do interviews and investigations and so forth. And so the CIA came out with an operation called Looking Glass. And the Operation Looking Glass was so they literally take over the media, take over the news stories. They would buy networks and have their operatives out there spinning the stories. And so to think that those things don't happen, even on a smaller scale, imagine in this particular election cycle, can you really afford in Pennsylvania, one of the excuse me, one of the key states that are up for grabs? Do you really think they can afford this type of story to come out and then actually be truly investigated in terms of not only the student getting carved up and attacked, but the cover up, the muzzling, the because allegedly stuff like this is only supposed to take place if Trump was in office. So in this battleground state, is we have to downplay the racial aspect of it all and basically come out with the assertion that it's been solved and the family is happy with the resolution.
But to have a mindset or have ideas that stuff like this will only happen under a Trump administration. That were you born in 2020? So we're gonna forget about the 8 years of Obama and all the things that happened. We could just look at those 8 years that Obama, all the things that happened to Black people racially during the 8 years of Obama. And if you try to have the mindset that this is the mindset of people who exist like this because the Trump administration exists, you had to be born in 2020, and for some reason you miraculously just grew up to a full-grown adult in 4 years.
Or it could just be that they think people are that stupid, and they've been proven right a lot by making that assumption.
But also, because you're talking about you got on the systematic angle. So if we want to go further into the systematic angle, Gettysburg College, like there was alluded to earlier, the statements that they gave is bull. So this is a time for us to come. Why do these institutions always put out lame ass statements like that? Like, see, this is the time for us to rally around these incidents and these people and come together. What about before then? So forget when it's peace. Forget when nothing's happening. We shouldn't be rallying and we shouldn't be coming together, but only in times of distress, only in times when racist things actually happen, should we show the real pride of Gettysburg. The real pride of Gettysburg was showed when the N-word was carved into that man's chest. What are you talking about? Like we not dumb. Us, the us's and we's, us three on here and the people who watch this, we ain't dumb. But everybody else, I mean, questions. If you because they keep coming out with these statements and people keep falling for it.
I think people are dumb. Personally.
I mean, of course, I already think that.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it for the people watching. that's saying like that's right, we not slow. I think people are dumb. Um, I think, and I think there's a strong body of evidence that supports the thought. The fact that they keep pushing, trotting out these statements, and the fact that the statements work. Like I know people are always like, "Don't nobody buy that shit." We ain't paying attention to the statements. I know
Yeah,
I'm at my
they do.
limit,
You good?
but the fact that people are like, "Don't nobody buy that." Ain't nobody buying into them statements. But
Well,
then the fact that these organizations keep releasing them and then keep getting let off the hook for doing the things that caused them to have to write the statements, that like kind of proves the statement works. Look, if I punch you in the mouth and then say I'm sorry, and then punch you in the mouth and then say I'm sorry again, and then punch you in the mouth, it like you can't tell me, well, you can't just keep saying you sorry. That don't mean nothing. Well, obviously it means everything because I keep punching you in the mouth and saying I'm sorry and getting away with it.
as of last Tuesday, according to the CNN article, there's still no evidence. Now, things may have changed since then, but there still has been no evidence of any punishment towards students, like they're saying some kind of suspension or some kind of expulsion or anything. No information is being put out about this. So, I mean,
Well,
if
they said the student was kicked off campus and he won't be allowed back.
Okay.
The alleged sole operative here.
But it's like you committed assault.
Yeah.
With a deadly weapon. You literally committed assault with a deadly weapon.
Mm-hmm. We know that.
And just let off the camp. But that's why isn't the family pursuing criminal charges?
Bruh.
For the same look, there's a lot about what's going on with the family that don't make sense. Like, not only is it the fact that they're not pursuing criminal charges, but it's also the fact that they're letting the Black Student Union and the NAACP take the lead on it. Like the Black Student Union. I understand the NAACP, I really do. Like, they have a reputation. People think that they actually do stuff, and they used to actually do stuff. But the Black Student Union piece, something like that, those two things don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're gonna let the same student that's getting stuff carved into them, allegedly.
Yeah.
Like what it. So that piece is, but again, it's for me. Is what's really interesting as I think about it is the believability of it. As I say, allegedly, because we don't know the facts of the case yet. But the truth of the matter is, it's believable. And so then the question becomes, why is this a believable story in the year of our Lord 2024? And I think that's a part of a serious conversation that we keep as a culture and a people tap dancing around. The fact that the dates change, but the times don't. We never really want to address the reality of the situation we live in, a situation that says, you know what? I can see a bunch of white people holding a Black dude down and carving nigga chest at a school campus. I can see that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a whole conversation in and of itself about why you can see that. And then like, okay, well, if you can see that, why would you allow your children, yourself even, to be put in a situation where that could happen?
We constantly going back to Ruby Bridges to now constantly putting our children in environments that are not safe for them.
And then you got the Black Albert Einstein walking around here just so outraged by it and all of that. And I'm just like, it don't even make sense for you. You mad at the wrong, like, okay, trigger alert for everybody. I'm about to blame the victim. At this point, when bad stuff happened to Black people in white spaces, you should be more mad at the Black person than the white people. Because why are you there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they start talking in this whole nasally passive I belong. I should be able to go wherever I want. Yeah, it's true. Man, in the perfect world, we don't live in a perfect world. I would have. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
I've been having this conversation with ladies, right? And I'm like, y'all got to be more careful about the positions y'all put yourselves in, because you can be put in harm's way. Well, I should be able to do whatever I want. I said, true, you should be. But we don't live in a world where you should be.
We've never lived in that world.
Right. So should you be able to walk down a dark alley in the middle of the night with flickering lights and, strange and weird noises coming out of it and be untouched and unbothered? Sure, you should be. But if you go down that alley, there's a strong possibility that something could happen to you. Why don't you just choose the paved street with street lights, or perhaps not even be out there in the middle of the night, period, in that type of seedy environment? And that's the same technology that Pat was talking about in Gettysburg. You know, I've been to Gettysburg. I saw a quilt. They have a Civil War quilt that they do. And they take a lot of pride in the history of Gettysburg. But let me tell you something. Everybody in Gettysburg wasn't fighting for the blue. Some cats was fighting for the gray. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of that sentiment is still there, because there's a lot of resentment, because the narrative has been spent that, you know, we did this, we fought to free the slaves and this and that. No, you didn't. I wish people, slavery, yes, but you didn't fight to free us. You know, your ancestors didn't fight to free nobody, and it was black people on those lines too. But the bottom line is the sentiment is still there. The resentment
I'm sorry, PC.
No, go ahead.
I want to, because you made a good point, and I just want to tap dance on it for just a second before I pass my cane off to Joe. You know, my new favorite game is Okay, You're Right. It's actually not new. I've been playing this game for a couple years now, I think. I love when I hear people say I should be able to go where I want to, because you're right. And you can. If this story is true, that black swimmer could go to that school. In fact, they did. They did go to that school. There was nothing stopping them from going to that school. They went to that school. I'm not saying you can't go where you want to go. I'm saying just like you have a right to enter into their space, they have the power to do what they want to do to you when you come into that space. And you have the privilege of being able to accept them doing what they want to do when they exercise their power. So yeah, you can go move around a bunch of white people and they can burn your house down. Nobody stopped either one of those events from happening. Mm-hmm. You can send your kids to a all-white school like we did, and they have full right, not right, but they have full power to load up chalk into shots and shoot children in the face to the point that they see black spots for the rest of their life. Look, we live in a world of natural consequences, and that don't change because you don't like the consequences. I would never send my child or have the black people going to Trump rallies. You have a right to go to Trump rallies, and they have the privilege and power to beat you up for being there. But all I'm saying is be real, be an adult about it.
But it's ignorant to think that because you have this mindset or because you want to be in this space, that these people who have historically treated your people horrendously is going to automatically change because you're there and the years changed and you're in this academic space and all these things. No, there's a history behind this. There's a continued history behind this because there's a system in place for this to happen. Look at how this incident is totally being handled, right? Behind the scenes, not the actual incident that happened, but everything else around the incident as far as the justice that's supposed to be given to the black student. So justice is he just get kicked off of campus. Come on now. So, but I'm with you on stop expecting your enemies to treat you nice. Stop expecting to go into white spaces and be treated nice, because these same black people will go into black spaces with fear, expecting black people to harm them. So
Well,
the people with go ahead, say it again.
wasn't that what the young man that was on the camera was talking about? He had
Yeah.
fear in Kensington,
Yeah.
which not just a black neighborhood, but there's a lot of black people in Kensington. So I got three things, right? Well, two things to say about this. So Brandon Williams, right? And we covered Brandon Williams before on this show, and we talked about he's a congressman from down in Florida, right? And we talked about him because he was talking post-racial, like we live in a post-racial environment. He literally was just on the Breakfast Club. He Friday.
He talking about Byron Donalds.
Byron Donalds. There you go. My bad, Brandon. Byron Donalds. There you go.
I was like, who is Brandon?
Shout out that. My bad. My man caught it straight for no reason. So Byron was on the Breakfast Club. Now we fried Byron. We fried him. Fricassee. You know what I mean? He recently just fried Angela Rye on the Breakfast Club, right? But the one thing he said there, and one of the things we fried him for, is what he was talking about. We live in this post-racial society, and that's a big problem with a lot of black people. We seem to think we have control over that narrative, that we can just say that and speak into existence, and then we could just walk in places where black people are not fond of black people at. And so that problem, because that speaks to a delusion of being able to say that, you know, we are the ones to say that we're no longer dealing with racism. Well, we're not the arbiters of racism. We're not the authors. We're not the social engineers of what make racism work in America. We don't write the scripts for racism. So we don't have the control over that, because we don't dominate this society. There's a dominant class that runs the society. We don't like to acknowledge it, but it's true. And for those of y'all who don't, I mean, shit, what currency do you use again? Right. You know what I'm saying? You know, all of you out there using gold, and if you got in gold and dinars, let me know. I could use a few. But and it speaks to, so we don't control the environments. So we have to be educated on the environments that we put ourselves in, especially our children in. Pat is actually absolutely right about that, because it's irresponsible. Now, I remember watching this video a few years ago of these people that were on safari. It was like a line of cars driving through. And this woman got mad at her husband, and she got out the car. Well, the Tigers was like, okay, snatched her up, dragged into the woods. Then there was another person. The man tried to rescue his wife. Another tiger grabbed his ass and took him to the woods. Tigers had a good day that day because the people were ignorant of the environment they were in.
But that ignorance also stretches to, on one end, black people, we want to send our children to the white institutions because we feel like that it will give them a better shot. And then on the other end, for the HBCUs, we're begging the government to fund the HBCUs. We don't get it. We don't get it, right? It's the carving of the N-word in that young man's chest was an unfortunate incident. That's not his fault. But we shouldn't continue to send our black kids into these spaces. I remember we did a story years ago about something that happened at the University of Missouri. We was saying some of the same things. It was a racial incident there. This is not the ideal world that's in our heads. We have to have the mindset of we need to do for self and protect self. You need to build it and protect it, build it and protect it. We're unprotected because we keep going into their spaces. Mm-hmm. He was totally unprotected in that space and vulnerable in that space. And the vulnerability was even more exposed because, from my understanding, the guy who carved it into his skin was supposed to be his friend.
Ain't that how it work?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that how it work? You know,
But we can't trust each other though.
what was the dude down in Texas about 15 years ago that was hanging out with his friends at a bar, and they said there was a good idea to tie him to the back of their pickup truck, and they drove on the road.
Oh yeah, in Waco. Well, it's also similar to the black lady years ago who was at a sleepover with a gang of white women and she went missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and I don't know what gets into certain I don't know, because I'm conscious of this. It's hard for me to fathom with people who don't. That's just like I was talking about the fear thing. It's hard for me to relate to people who are this blind to how society operates and move, and therefore they sort of become like airheads. They sort of become like blinds, the reputation that comes with being blind. They sort of become very dense in terms of understanding the reality that we are dealing with right now. And it's because they want to be a part of something else. And maybe they were rejected somehow, some way down the way. Or maybe
about it.
Right. So they wanted to step out. They believe that they can step into the safe place. Hey, you like anime? I like anime. Bet. Okay, we're cool. We're friends. And the whole time you don't realize this dude is playing you.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot. And most of it too, I'm going to tell you right now, with this social media age, a lot of our kids are sheltered and they have no idea of how to read those cues that kept us safe when we were walking up and down the block.
Mm-hmm.
I make eye contact with everybody. You know what they do when they see me? They take their cell phone out and they do this when they see me. Now, I can be ready to club you upside your head, but if you're going to do this with your phone and stick your face in your phone the whole time so you don't have to make eye contact with me because you're too socially awkward to understand that eye contact is one of the first ways you can to meet a person.
But I mean, just like the gall and the comfortability to look at somebody and be like, I'm finna carve the N-word into your skin. That means that white boy never looked at him as a fellow human being.
Well,
he was trying to brand him by hand.
Hold on, Joe. Hold on. Let's not be harsh.
Yeah, he was.
Let's not be harsh on the little white guy.
He was.
Well, nah, because this is funny because actually PC and I were talking about something similar this weekend. We were talking about how humane black people are. Mm-hmm. You know, and how we don't understand that humanity is
wicked and cold.
Yeah, it's not appropriate to the contextual environment we exist in.
Humanity and civility are two different things.
But I don't think it is for a lot of black people.
Well, it's okay. Humanity and civility are supposed to be two different things.
I think because I think people forget, right? Like most people, and I mean this when I say this, so I need y'all to hear me out. And it's real quick too. It's only one sentence. Most people don't view other people as the same as them or as equal to them.
Right.
They don't view you as a human. Being considered a human is something that you gain as people get to know you. And I think when people really do a deep self-analysis, they realize that they carry those same beliefs. Most people aren't thinking about the next person down. They aren't considering that person. And then I also think there's a component of cultural context, cultural differences. My whole thing is I don't want to ascribe any beliefs to this white boy outside of the fact that he don't like black people.
I do it.
And the reason I say that is because I think it puts us in a place of handicap where now we're not actually able to see true motives because we are looking for the motives we've assigned.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with this white boy, I'm not going to say he never saw the black boy as a human. I am going to say that in that moment that he was carving into him, he did not see him as an equal. But I think when we start playing the humanity games as black people, we're already engaged in a losing battle, because now we're trying to get them to see us. And I'm not saying you're doing it, Joe. I'm not saying you're doing it, but I'm saying in general, when we start playing this game of humanity, we start trying to, it becomes a comparative thing where they're the standard and we're like, well, you wouldn't treat your mother or your sister like that, or your friends or people that look like you like that. So why would you treat me like that? And I'm like, there's a very obvious answer to that. Silly question.
Right. That's the fallacy in their idea of what humanity is. And so I must, I ain't taking it back what I said, because you already know I don't want to take it back, so I ain't taking it back. But in saying that, he didn't look at him as a human being. These are people who don't look at each other as human beings, who historically have not looked at each other as human beings. And right, so this is not a comparison battle. This is not a comparison to say that we're more human than them or we're just as human than them. No, this is how they see us. This is how they've seen us historically. Get it through your heads. This is not pretty. Humanity is not pretty. Nature just, Hurricane Helene just showed us how violent nature can be. Nature can be both beautiful and loving and violent and terroristic at the same time. Both are true about nature. Both are true about nature. Both are true about humanity, because we're part of nature. Look at the history of human beings, but also look at the history of the relationship between African people, people of the African diaspora, and people of the European diaspora.
Well, I'm not going to consider white folk force of nature, but I will do this. So we talking about James Byrd Jr., born May 2nd, 1949, died June 7th, 1998, was an African-American man who was, I gotta take that out, by 3 white men, 2 of whom were avowed white supremacists in Jasper, Texas on June 7th, 1998. Sean Berry, Lawrence Brewer, and John King dragged him for 3 miles, 5 kilometers, behind a Ford pickup truck along an asphalt road. Byrd, who remained conscious for much of his ordeal, was deleted about halfway through the dragging when his body hit the edge of a culvert, severing his right arm and head. The leaders drove another 1.5 miles before dumping his torso in front of a black church. So this is the reality, right? This is the reality that we need to keep bringing home. And I find it, and I'm going to tell you the biggest problem with this is black parents don't want you saying this to their children. I would go into school, black principals didn't want me saying it to their students. But I would just talk to a brother a few days ago, because he said, brother, we need you to come in and start teaching. I said, bro, y'all told me I was too radical a few years ago. What changed? Oh, well, that wasn't me. I said, brother, I remember a representative from your organization telling me that I need to soften up what I was going to tell these students during the summer program because I was too radical. They'd rather have another guy in there that was going to tell them about how mathematics rules their world. And I'm like, the reality of what I was going to tell them would have saved some of their lives.
Right, but this incident that happened at Gettysburg College is a wake-up call, another slap in the face, another reality check. Like, it's real out here. This war to maintain power by the system of white supremacy is not over. I know when you think about war, you think about physical conflict, tanks, armies, and all these things here. that happened. Well, not with the tanks and all that stuff, but with the clashing of different groups of people that happened. It was called the transatlantic slave trade and everything that went into that, right? We're here now. It's a different type of war. It's a mental war that still has physical components. Now, this is low. We've talked about this before. This is low-level maintenance racism. Of course, this is not the systematic racism. The systematic racism is to make sure the system is maintained and make sure that there's no breakdowns. Make sure that there are no glitches. Make sure that Black people are not getting any headway. Every now and then, Black people will get victories, but for the most part, we're not getting any victories to truly break down the system of white supremacy. Because if that was so, we wouldn't have like back and forths about equality. We would be having these back and forths about reparations. We wouldn't be back and forth about power. Power would be evenly distributed willingly. Power, land, resources, money will be evenly distributed willingly. If we really talked about a post-racial era, if we're really talking about equality, if we're really talking about the end of racism, well, let's not just talk about how one group of people treat each other. What were the overall outcomes of racism, of slavery, of the transatlantic slave trade, of Jim Crow? It was to gain and maintain power, land, wealth, and resources. So where it's at, if we making progress, where it's at.
Oh,
Well,
we making progress. I mean, not us as a group of people, but us as a whole nation. We making progress because the white people are progressing very well.
Oh, America, yeah.
Yeah, and you notice I love playing words with friends. Um, and American society is very good at word games. America is making tremendous progress, and you notice that's the way they always phrase it. As Americans, we've come really far, and they're right. As Americans, we have come really far. As Black people, we have not moved a whole lot, but as Americans, we've come really far.
Once again, if you really believe that we've come really far as Black people, look at the actual true gains. Look at how much wealth we control now versus how much wealth we controlled 100 years out of slavery.
well,
Just
Joe,
look at follow the money, follow the power.
one of the things though is that guy carved into that young brother's chest because there's a lack of respect, a lack of consequences that's going to come from doing it to one of us. And we have not made the world, like we have not had a reckoning on the world to make them respect our humanity. And when you're dealing with people who are savage and is their core nature, because that was a savage act. When you're dealing with people who you have to let them know that their savagery comes with a consequence. And the consequence has to be so damning that it'll make them think twice before crossing that line again. And this is one of the reasons why we really push this concept of the public image of Black people. Because publicly speaking, if your image is gangbangers and hookers, then there's nothing to respect for you internationally, nationally, wherever you are. And we already know that there's an ancient war going on between Black people and white people here in America, and if you go back, from Europe and Africa. So if you operate like you're in a war, you don't let your children fall asleep behind enemy lines. Not unless they're going to be safe and protected. And you just have so many people who just pretend like that no longer is the reality that we deal with. And then you deal with the consequence. That young man's going to have to wear that for the rest of his life unless he has it surgically removed. And even then, it's going to leave a scar.
Well, if you think ideals and morals will keep you protected, then you had just been asleep at the wheel, because it really has. So yeah, and that's all we got to say about that. But incidents like this will continue to happen to a group of people who cannot truly protect themselves, who depend on their oppressors for everything. Once again, it's not that young man's fault what happened to him, but we got to do a better job of having environments where our children can be nurtured, in our environments where they can be safe. Because if not, we're still going to be vulnerable to our enemies. FetLifeStation.com, FetLifeStation.com, 2 p.m. Going over there right now. Just cut this off, going over there. We got enough for you. Go on over there right now. Go. ThePax.org. Make sure you check out the website.
Yo, they not listening no more.
Yes, they are. Somebody put in the comments the other day, tell me what Professor and Carl links are, and I gave them their links, so people are listening. So don't you?
No, I'm saying you told them to go over there right now. So like the audience should be gone.
See, here you go, technical Tedrick.
I'm just saying, if somebody's still here, they're disobedient. They're not listening anyway.
Well, I mean, we need a couple obedient, couple disobedient that way. Now you got people going to your website, but if you don't want people to go to your website, just say it, dog.
No, I'm just saying, you said, shoo, we had enough of y'all. Go over there right now. And you said it like 3 times. You gave them the Umar Johnson treatment.
I know, but they didn't go, though. I know they did. So that's why they going to your website now, where they was until you start. Hey, man, y'all know what it is. We love y'all. We'll see y'all next time.